Glad you was able to make it to today's session, where we're going to be discussing the importance of setting clear expectations on routines and procedures the first day of school. Something that you don't want to miss. But before we jump in, make sure that you subscribe below for more great videos. Let's go!
This next part's my favorite part, cause it's time to shine.
So the one thing I wish somebody had told me before entering the classroom is this: everything is a procedure. Everything. And along with that, students need to be able to answer 3 questions when you establish a routine or a procedure. They need to know how to do it, where to do it, and when to do it. Answer this question: what do you want students to do when they come into your classroom? Got an answer? Of course. You want them to work. You want them to get started. So how do you establish this? One way, by meeting students at the door. If you do not have an assignment in your hand for students to get ready, make sure that you have a visual PowerPoint or some type of presentation or some type of written instruction on the board, and you address that situation at the door first day. Tell students that you have 3 things provided for them. If I'm not giving it to you in your hand, you need to read it on the board. So if you're not getting it from me at the door, it's on the board for you to read. Simple as that. This should ignite them to know what to expect when they come into your classroom. So there's a lot of things that need to be set in place when students first walk into your classroom. We've already addressed the situation about students getting in and getting started and meeting you at the door. So what if students need to turn in late work, or they need to sharpen their pencil, or they need to have a discussion with you or something like that? Simple. You require students to have a seat before approaching you with any type of question. Second, so let's say that you had a student who was absent and they have shown up to class. What should you do? Have a specific location identified for students to either return late work or retrieve late work. This should be outlined and labeled somewhere specifically in your class to alleviate you from having to go through that procedure of addressing that specific student. Typically at the beginning of the class, it's kind of chaotic because students are trying to figure their way out. However, this is a specific time for you to address and allow students to prepare for class. Any and everything requires preparation. So provide students time to prepare for class. Come in, settle, sharpen your pencils here, put your backpacks on the back of your desk, unload any notebooks, paper, pencil that you need for class. Get everything that you need out now so we don't have to address it later. So the more you do on the front end, the less you will have to do on the back end. So you don't have to keep repeating yourself. Once you establish a routine that you want and the procedures that you want, everything else will fall in rather smooth. So to make for easier transitions, or to minimize distractions in class by using our voice, here's 5 nonverbal cues that I use to make for easier transitions. You have water, restroom, pencil, I need to sharpen my pencil, tissue, and general question. So typically with those hand gestures, you have 2 options. You can either give them a yes, head nod yes, or shake your head no, or say not right now. I would say not right now if I'm in the middle of teaching, doing something constructive, or if I know that this student is seeking to be a distraction by doing one of those hand gestures. So therefore I test their accountability by saying not right now to see what they ask me again. If they ask me again, I know that it's urgent. If they don't, they wasn't too worried about it in the first place. Next, you want to establish a routine on how you can address the classroom without having to shout or to raise your voice or to yell at your students. We have to set things in place so students know, when I do this, you do that. One thing that I would always do is set an X marks the spot for your classroom. So whatever the layout is of your classroom, put a large X on the spot in which when you stand there, they be quiet. So you know, they know that you're about to say something that's important and that they need to be listening before you say it. You see the X, you stand on it, you tell students, when I stand in this spot, I need your eyes on me and mouths closed. And if I have to wait over 5 seconds, 10 seconds, or whatever it's so for, you will be punished accordingly. And what that looks like. So you go over routines, procedures, rules, expectations. Let them know whether your discipline procedures are that end, so you're not having to repeat yourself on what the consequence is if you do not attend to these actions. Remember when I said that everything is a procedure? Even turning in classwork, putting your name in the paper, put your name, date, assignment. Think about all of those things and how you want them to be aligned. If you work with a team of teachers, identify specific things that they require for students to do as well, so you're not giving out too many of logistical matters that confuse the student. Because we want students to make sure that not only are we on the same page, but the team is on the same page. With that being said, make sure you think about all of these small matters. The one thing that I learned about students early on is that if you don't say anything, you don't care about it. So that's why it's essential that you state everything. So if there's something that you want to see and it be done a certain type of way, you make sure that you address it. I mean, we can even go as far as to getting students to collect papers. If you have a classroom that has desks and students are in rows, you may want students to just pass all the papers to the front. And then when they get to the front, pass them all the way to the right. Any way that you can minimize distractions as best as possible, that's the routine that you want to go with. If you have tables, maybe having one person collect all the papers and pass them over to the right, or collect all the papers and pass them to the left, or collect all the papers and allow you to come around and take them up. Either way, you can always establish some way to minimize the distraction, but that goes with you identifying the personnel that is in your classroom. And this is also a perfect way to establish leadership roles within your class, having students to be able to pick up papers, distribute papers. You have to be sure to be cognizant of it and plan beforehand. Lastly, you want students to leave your classroom the same way that they entered your classroom. Orderly, organized, and engaged. So be sure to address and explain how you want students to get up, push in their seats, stand by their seats quietly before they can be released. My favorite quote, the bell doesn't dismiss you, I dismiss you. And you won't leave until my classroom is straight. So make sure the students push up chairs, pick up trash, but before they leave, they have to be quiet. And you dismiss which table, which row, what set of chairs, which group leaves first. And it plays on those 3 factors: how organized they are, how orderly they are, and how engaged they are. Because they have to make sure that they're paying attention before you give those instructions. So those were a few of the tips and suggestions I had on establishing routines and procedures the first day of school. Please comment below if you have any tips that you would like to share so we can build up this community. But just remember, even when no teacher is present, class is always in session. Till next time, guys.